Have you noticed how much division there is in the world at the moment? It's on so many issues. It's on like racism, marriage, sexuality. It's on religion, on politics, on what we think about Andrew Tate.
There's no power in sushi.
And I know this might sound idealistic, but that doesn't have to be the case, because here's the truth. Disagreement is unavoidable, but division is a choice. Now, don't get me wrong, on social media, division has its advantages, because you can build an audience and a following, and you can get people to share and click your stuff if you promote division. But the reality is that doesn't solve any of our problems. The only way to solve our problems and move forward is to move towards the middle. Now, the middle is scary. The middle is messy. The middle is the place where we start to learn that people on the other side are actually not that much different than us. And although it is challenging to move from our echo chambers and to move from the outskirts towards the middle, the reality is that's the only place the problems are solved. So what if you were to move away from the edges and towards the middle? I guarantee it might not change the world overnight, but it would begin to change the world of the people in your sphere of influence. Run the intro. Now, the truth is, division doesn't just have its advantages on social media. Division has its advantages in all parts of the world. It can get people to vote for you in politics. It can get people to support your cause. It can get people to donate money to you. But here's the truth, and you might turn the video off after I say this. If you need division to be a leader, then you're a bad leader. Don't get me wrong, it's easy to lead when you have an enemy, because you can point the finger at a group of people, you can demonize people, you can dehumanize people. But it's not actually being a good leader. In fact, Jesus kind of said it this way. Jesus said that just because someone else considers you an enemy doesn't mean you need to return the favor. One of the easiest ways is to become aware of something that's called the fundamental attribution error, which sounds fancy, but really all it is the tendency to describe character flaws to someone else while describing circumstantial flaws to ourselves. Now, here's an example of that. Say I was late to work versus someone else was late to work. Typically what I might think is, well, the reason that I was late to work is because there was an accident and then traffic was backed up and then it was hard for me to get across the exit to my freeway. And so there's all these circumstances that led to me being late to work. Whereas if someone else was late to work, there is this tendency to say, oh, well, they're late because they didn't set their alarm, or they're lazy, or they just don't care about it as much as I do. Listen up for this fundamental attribution error the next time you hear division spring up. And division typically springs up when phrases like all men or all women or all Christians or all people who vote for, or all people who fill in the blank arises. And the reality is, you and I know that's not true, because we experience it to be true. Like, we have friends, and I'm sure you have friends, who disagree with you on big issues. But it's not a cause for division. And the reason it's not a cause for division is because you know intuitively, well, hang on a minute, just because my friend holds that view doesn't mean that they're necessarily like that. Doesn't mean they necessarily think that way. It doesn't necessarily mean that they behave that way. So take the perspective with everyone to move away from the edges and move towards the middle. Because it's when we move towards the middle that we begin to say things like, oh, I never realized that from your perspective, or I had no idea, or I wasn't aware. Jesus was someone who constantly lived in the middle. The Roman Empire wanted him to be on their side. The Jewish temple wanted him to be on their side. Yet 2,000 years on, there is no Roman Empire. And 40 years after Jesus' death, there was no temple anymore. The reason Jesus didn't pick a side is because Jesus knew that the middle lasts. The middle is what brings about change. So let's not be people who pick sides. Let's be people who move towards the middle. The messy, messy middle. The middle is scary. The middle is challenging. The middle is not always fun, but the middle is where problems are solved. And if you want to be someone who adds light to the world, not darkness, then be someone who moves towards the middle. Hey, thanks so much for watching the video. If you found it helpful, why not subscribe? And while you're at it, share it with a friend who might find it helpful as well. Pew!